What's up? What's up? It's your boy. This is Ace Live, and I have a special guest with us today, a seasoned expat from New York who's been living in Colombia for a couple of years, Mr. Greggo. I'm sorry. You told me not to call you Mr. Sorry about that. How are you doing today,
It's
Greggo?
just the Mister that kind of shakes me. I'm doing very well, Ace. It's great to be here with you. And yeah, I've been living in Colombia for about 4.5 years.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I have a couple of questions to ask you. We previously talked over the phone, and I wanted to get from you was, why are more people becoming expats? And I wanted to hear your opinion on this subject, on why you became an expat.
People more. I don't know if more and more people are choosing this, but for me, I've always had a drive to explore and get out there. And I would say that living in the States, maybe just doing stuff all in English, is boring. I have much more fun. It's maybe I need more of a challenge. I don't know, but I have always been driven to get out and do things. And life is, for me, much more interesting outside the country.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Could you share with us your experiences on the first time ever leaving the United States and becoming an expat?
Well, I will say that I've always wanted to live overseas. I always wanted to live in a Spanish-speaking country. And in 1997, I had that opportunity, and I relocated to Barcelona, Spain. It was, I would say, the first time I lived overseas, magical. I was walking down the street, and I just couldn't believe I was in such a different place.
Wow.
I was in awe. I was in awe. I gotta tell you, my first experience when I was walking down the street, Spain, the sidewalks are different, and I was just like, I was in awe. Man, I'm in a different country. I'm in Spain. Wow. and I will say, now I'm in Medellin, and I walk around, and I accept it as normal. It's not that awe-inspiring as it first was, but I accept being in a different place. I love it. I love being in a different place. I love being in a different dynamic. I love interacting with people in Spanish, and it's just cool to me.
Okay, so after living in Barcelona, you moved. Did you move directly to Medellin, or how did that go?
I left Barcelona. I left out Barcelona because of a family emergency. My mother got sick, and I came home to take care of her. And I went through that. She had terminal cancer. So, I did what any son would have done. I went back home and took care of my mother for the last year of her life. And then I ended up moving to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for lots of side reasons I don't need to get into. I lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for 10 years. And then my life was right. Things were difficult, ends weren't meeting, and I ended up starting a relationship online with a woman in Manizales, Colombia. And she suggested I come to Colombia, and it made sense. So I made the move. I will say I'm a bit of a shoot from the hip guy. So, I don't have kids. My work is location independent. I speak Spanish. So I'm like, why not go? There's no reason. There's no reason not to go. So I always say, I made the move to Manizales 65% because of the woman I had met, and 35% because I suspected things would flow better for me. I suspected my life would be better economically because of the exchange rate between the dollar and the peso, and all of that, and I will say the relationship didn't last very long. Well, it lasted 8 months. But the other stuff worked. The other stuff worked. Life was easier, life was better and more fun. I gelled with the Colombian culture, and so I stayed. And I'm not looking. I haven't looked back. I enjoy living in Colombia. I moved from Manizales to Medellin, and now I'm enjoying living in Medellin. I want to go back and visit the States a little more frequently, but I have no desire to go and live back in the United States.
Cool, cool, cool. So you met someone online, you guys fall in love, and you decide to make that step to move to Colombia. Now, how was that process of moving, initially moving? Did you have some help? What steps did you take to do that initial move from the States to Colombia?
It wasn't hard to do. It wasn't hard. It was easy, maybe because, again, I'll repeat, I'm a shoot from the hip guy. I didn't, I don't have the typical attachments that people have. So I didn't have a job. I mean, I didn't have a location specific job. I had work that I was doing, but I didn't have a location specific job. I had been evicted from an apartment that I lived in Lancaster, and so I was renting a room in a house with a friend, and I had to. I didn't have a car. I didn't, so it was like there's no reason. The only thing that's stopping me, well, basically, there was nothing stopping me from getting up and moving to Colombia. All I needed was a plane ticket. I already had the majority of my belongings in storage. Really, all I needed was a plane ticket. The woman I was seeing found an apartment for me, and I got a plane ticket and I went. That easy. That's simple. But there are other things involved in it. Have made this move to a city like Bogota. Bogota to me is a big city. It's comparable to New York City. And the fact that this woman I met lived in Manizales, which is a small city of about 400,000 people. I researched Manizales and it seemed inviting. And it seemed, because Lancaster is a small city. Lancaster County the population of Lancaster County is 500,000 people. The city is under 100,000 people. So I wanted a small place. And researching Manizales started clicking together and it seemed positive. I had a gut feeling and everything worked. Everything seemed to connect from this gut feeling that just told me to go. So that's what I did.
Okay, so after the 8 months of the relationship ended for whatever reason, did you stay at that location? Did you move? And if you did move, did you have any help moving to a new location? What did you do?
When I broke up with the woman, I mean, the apartment was mine. So she moved out of the apartment and I stayed where I was. And I will say the relationship didn't work because it was me. I'm not I'm not a relationship guy, or there are things I need to learn about relationships. There's a lot of self personal development that I needed to go through back then and that I'm going through now. However, when she rented the apartment for me, I always paid the rent. And the landlords were clear that it was my apartment. So when we broke up, she left and went back to her family house, and I stayed where I was. And I actually stayed in Manizales for another year, or another 16 months. And everything, I had my own network of friends. I had work that I was doing through the internet, but I also, in the 8 months that I had been there and the continuing time, I had private English students, and I was developing my network of professional contacts for translation work. So everything was falling into place, aside from my personal relationships. Everything fell into place. My professional work, all of that fit in Colombia very, very well, very, very easily, very, very organically. And Manizales was an easy city to learn how to navigate and manage. Medellin
Okay.
is not a hard city to navigate. I have lived in Medellin now for 2.5 years, almost 3 years, and it's not a difficult city to learn how to manage, and it's a fun city. So, everything is still going well. And I like to think that I'm working on the personal development stuff that I need to be working on as well.
Great. Great. Let me ask you another question since you mentioned work. I saw another interview where you mentioned the word digital expat, not digital nomad, but digital expat. And I just wanted to ask you, do you think you would have been able to work anywhere in the world, or it would have to be a
I think I
particular
could have gone
location?
to any Spanish-speaking country in the world and managed, because a lot of the work that I ended up doing was translation work, translating text from Spanish to English. However, there is a worldwide demand for English. English is basically the international language of business. So I probably could have gone to any country where they spoke a different language, and I would have had the niche, the skill niche of English, to be able to teach people English. So, I could have gone to Asia, and I could have gone to an African country, any place where they didn't speak English, and I would have had that niche of being able to teach English.
You're a freelance writer and you have a vlog online. I just want to introduce my audience to your vlog. And in your vlog, you seem to be very transparent. Right.
It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing. My blog is Grupo Amos on Colombia. I formed an umbrella company called Grupo Amos, and Grupo Amos has the blog on Colombia. Now, my tagline is a 360-degree view of Colombia. However, it's primarily the 360-degree view that I see. So I write about Colombia. I like to write about the culture, and I like to write about the lifestyle, but I also write about my experiences and what I am going through living here. So yeah, I have learned that transparency and openness and honesty is my ticket to success. So, I've also learned that I am not the only person in the world that experiences the things that I experience. And so when I write about the fact that I have relationship problems, people can connect to that because everybody has relationship problems. It's not just me. It's not just me. So I have found that it's cathartic for me to write about what I'm experiencing. And fortunately, other people can connect with that. And that's important for me. That's important for me because I feel like I'm helping people by the fact that I share the craziness that I sometimes go through, you know?
Okay, one of the things you wrote about on your blog is you have a passage that's very transparent to me. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see. All right. It says, I've admitted in past posts then my relocation to Colombia was running away from my life. Can you speak on what you meant by that?
You know, it's the phrase wherever you go, there you are. I was there were things that were not working for me in the United States, and rather than open up those things and deal with them, I left. I left the country, and there were things in Colombia that I connected with right away. It's a dichotomy because in the United States, I'm older than 55 right now. Right now, I'm 55 years old. So we're talking about 4.5 years ago. I was 50 plus. It was hard to get a job, and it was easy for me to connect with employment in Colombia because I had a skill niche. I spoke English and I could teach English, and I spoke Spanish and could translate and interpret from Spanish to English. Now, I have learned that 9 to 5 guy. I'm not the guy that works for a company. So some of the problems I had in the United States where I was working for companies and didn't accept the fact that I'm a freelancer. I was forced to accept that in here in Colombia. Now, I could have done that and probably, developed a freelance writing business in the United States. But it organically developed as I was in Colombia. And then sure, I have learned that the other things, I've in the past I've run away from who I am, and part of it is because I don't always plan things, and because I sometimes before I think things through. So now I think things through a little more, you know. But luckily, my gut typically takes care of me and takes me to good places. So even though I was running away from myself, and you can't run away from yourself, obviously, wherever you go, there you are, right? I landed in a good spot. I landed in a good spot.
I
Makes
understand.
sense.
I understand. Okay, okay. So here's the big question that a lot of people ask me. I want to hear your thoughts on the subject. How do people, how are people receiving you in
That's
Colombia as an
actually
African
a
American?
very interesting thing because I always feel that in the United States, I'm African American or Black American or Black and not even American. And whenever I have traveled overseas, I'm American. Period. I'm American, and that is something that I never experience being American in the United States. Here in Colombia, they see me as American first, and not even black. It's like el gringo. That's the American that lives in that building. And race is a separate thing. Race is not the same as it is in the United States. In the United States, I'm black. And anywhere else I have traveled outside the country, I'm North American or American. It's a very interesting experience. It's a very interesting dichotomy.
Okay. You mentioned that you're single. All right. So, how are the ladies treating you? How are they receiving you? Uh, do you have to know Spanish? You obviously know Spanish. Do you have to know Spanish? And for people who don't know Spanish, what would be the best approach for to connect with the Colombia people if you don't know Spanish?
Well, I advocate learning Spanish, because if you're going to a country, you need to integrate yourself with how that country operates. And Colombia is a Spanish speaking country. Spanish is the language. So I would advocate for anybody coming, yeah, learn Spanish. In terms of meeting people and meeting women, you know, yeah, speaking Spanish. Obviously, if I meet someone who doesn't speak English, then there's no language barrier. If I did not speak Spanish, there would be a language barrier, because the majority of people that you run into are not, don't speak English. Or if someone speaks English, it might be a primary level, primary or intermediate. Depend on communicating with Colombians who spoke English, that would much more limit the circle of people I could interact with. So I'm really, really grateful for the fact that I speak Spanish every day, every single day. I read the newspaper and I talk to people and I listen to people. So I still work on my Spanish. It can still be improved. And that is the biggest tool that I have to be able to communicate and connect with people and meet women.
Okay. Listen, before I conclude this interview with you, do you have any upcoming projects that you want us viewers to know in the near future?
Sure. And my blog, Grupo Amos on Colombia, my projects are building this blog and writing about my goals are to be able to travel around the country and write about the country, things that people don't always see, things that people don't always hear about. And those are the goals. I want to travel to the little towns, little out of the way towns, and hang out there for a couple of weeks and write about that. So that's what people can expect for the future for Grupo Amos on Colombia. And sure, meanwhile, I'll still share the personal things that happen to me while I'm here, because that's part of the story. That's part of the story.
I will leave a link of Greggo's vlog in the description. All right, guys. Is that the best way to contact you?
Sure. The best way to contact me is through the blog. You can send messages. It's www.oncolombia.grupoamos.com, and you can send me messages through there, or you can send me emails. My email is greggo@grupoamos.com. I'm very open to communicate with anybody and everybody.
Thank you, Greggo, for agreeing to do this interview. I know it was short notice. I contacted you yesterday, and you agreed to do this interview with me. I appreciate it, and I know my viewers also appreciate it. As we speak, I look forward to meeting you. I will be in Colombia in the near future, and I hope we could work together. I feel like we could work together in some capacity.
Ace, I'm sure we can. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for interviewing me. Thank you for reaching out to me. And I look forward to meeting you in person. And I'm sure there are lots of things we can do in terms of collaborations and you know, anything I can do to help you, I'm there for you, man.
Thank you very much, guys. Well, this concludes our interview with a seasoned expat straight out of Colombia, Greggo. I almost said Mr. Greggo. But like, guys, if you like this video, leave a like, a comment, and I will give you more content like this. All right, I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. But before I leave, I want to remind you guys to always stay live. If you enjoy this video and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button right there. And if you want to see another video, I got a link here, I got a link here, and I got a link over here. Holla at your boy. Holla at your boy. I'm coming with the hat.